I'm Chrissy Clark, and these are the 5 underreported stories that you need to know. The FBI arrested a conservative-leaning Blaze Media investigative reporter over his coverage of what happened on January 6, 2021 at the U.S. Capitol. Federal authorities told reporter Steve Baker and his legal team that there was a signed warrant for his arrest, and they instructed him to self-surrender for, quote, alleged J6 crimes. Baker was charged with nonviolent misdemeanors, and federal authorities, aka the Biden administration, would not tell this reporter what specific crimes underlie the arrest. The feds refused to reveal the charges ahead of the arrest because they, quote, believed Baker would post them on social media. Not to get all nerdy on you, but the 6th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution guarantees that individuals accused of a crime, just like Steve Baker, have the right to be informed of the nature of the cause of the accusations against them. And he wasn't. This reporter's arrest is not new in this whole Biden ecosphere of targeting political opponents. The Biden administration has also targeted Christians for singing church hymns outside of abortion clinics. They've also targeted Catholic churches by surveilling Christians attending mass. Next story, I hate to say this story may trigger you, but it kind of triggered me. The White House now refers to illegal immigrants as newcomers, according to a brief urging Congress to pass a bipartisan border security bill. I read a lot of the comments that you guys write, and I know that if there's anything that upsets you in this world, it's when I say unalived to skirt the algorithm, or when any Democrat uses the word migrant instead of illegal immigrant. But now imagine the White House thinking that migrant is too controversial. Instead, we should just call everybody newcomers. Oh, no.
This is the dumbest thing ever.
Speaking of illegal immigration, the city of Los Angeles now plans to hire and arm foreign criminals to police U.S. citizens. The LAPD is hiring illegal border crossers and then equipping them with guns to police Americans. To be eligible, these border crossers have to have what is known as Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA status. These are people who illegally entered the country as minors, and then in 2012, then President Barack Obama ordered an indefinite delay of their deportation. For background information, having DACA status can expedite the process of becoming a U.S. citizen. You just need to fill out the paperwork for a green card, and it's relatively easy. But a lot of people just want to keep their DACA status. They want to work, they want to live in the U.S., but they still want to be foreign citizens. But now the state of California is allowing DACA recipients to be LAPD officers. Again, these are people who broke our laws to get into the country, and many of them don't even want to be considered U.S. citizens, but they want to patrol U.S. citizens with guns? Let me know what you think of this in the comments. On to our next story. A regional airline company debuted a drag queen-inspired airplane at the National Gay Pilots Association.
What in the world is going on here?
GoJet Airlines, which operates under a branch of United Airlines, proudly shared this image of a drag-themed aircraft. For the listening audience, the airliner has eyes and lips, and the eyes have these little transgender and rainbow flags as eyeshadow on them. I am not personally offended by this if a private person wants to create a drag queen themed plane. What irritates me, and I'm assuming what irritates you as well, is that it feels like the airlines are prioritizing DEI or making transgender planes over the safety of passengers. An Alaska airplane literally just had a plane lose a window in the middle of a flight, and JetBlue had 2 airliners collide on the runway in Boston, not to mention how many flights get delayed, and there are people stranded by Southwest. And meanwhile, the Federal Aviation Administration is holding DEI sessions on how to reduce the number of heterosexual white men in aviation. Fix the safety problems first, damn it, okay? We don't care what the skin color of the pilot is. We just want to get safely from point A to point B with no delay. Anyway, let's get to our last story of the day. Finally, MSNBC featured a book titled White Rural Rage, The Threat to American Democracy. For just $32 whopping, you can read all about how white rural Americans are stupid pieces of shit who are ruining the country for the elites. The authors of this book went on MSNBC, and this is what they really think of people who aren't like them.
We lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. First of all, and we show 30 polls and national studies to demonstrate this, so we provide the receipts in Chapter 6. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and anti-gay geodemographic group in the country.
Except it's leftists who are trying to break us up by our race in the name of anti-racism. Schools like Harvard are hosting black-only graduation events, and schools in Washington have black-only dorm floors.
Second, they're the most conspiracist group. QAnon support and subscribers, election denialism, COVID denialism and scientific skepticism, Obama birtherism.
Except I believe it was the left who told us that Donald Trump was a Russian agent who colluded with the Russian government to rig the election, even though that was a conspiracy theory. Oh, and don't forget the conspiracy theory that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation.
Third, anti-democratic sentiments. They don't believe in an independent press, free speech. They're most likely to say the president should be able to act unilaterally without any checks from Congress or the courts or the bureaucracy. They're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalist.
Except I believe it's Democrats that just got told unilaterally by the Supreme Court that it's anti-democratic to kick Donald Trump off of state ballots just because you don't like him. He also claimed that white rural Americans don't believe in free speech, but you guys, quite literally on the exact same channel, MSNBC, just hours after this segment aired, an MSNBC analyst said free speech makes the U.S. vulnerable and called for common sense speech restrictions.
And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
And I'm just going to leave you with the CNN chyron that reads fiery but mostly peaceful to describe the burning of towns in the name of a fake racial epidemic. This professor and so-called journalists spend all day blaming rural white people for the end of democracy while failing for 1 second to look at themselves in the mirror and realize what hypocrites they are. That's all I've got for you today. See you back here tomorrow.